I'd like to preface this story with some understanding about why I brought this story to the channel. It's the story of two young people who are more than likely dead, and while most of my stories are the unsolved, whodunit type, this one will probably not fit neatly into that category. You may have very strong thoughts about who, but the why may be a little hard to comprehend. What I'd like you to try and focus upon in this story is that there are suffering people left behind who just want closure, to bury their loved ones and at a stretch maybe even witness a judgment day, no matter how unlikely that may be in this part of the country. Join me for a ride through the odd and mysterious story of Molly Miller and Colt Haynes. Small towns often hold their secrets close. Heroes, victims, and villains are often tied together by intricate webs of family ties that encourage questionable loyalties and expected silence. Sometimes, the violence and chaos that sweeps across these communities could put any big city to shame. As school let out in the summer of 2013, a 17-year-old girl went to a party with one of her friends. By the time the party was over, there had been a car chase, a series of mysterious phone calls, a panicked search, and ultimately a pair of disappearances that remain unsolved to this day. Attempts to unravel this case and learn the truth of that night have become complicated by a tight network of corruption, lies, and allegations. For some perspective about the area, the town of Wilson, Oklahoma in 2013 had a population of just over 1,700 people, with 90% being white, 7% being Native American. The entire town is nearly 6 miles square. So yes, everyone knows everyone else in this small town in south-central Oklahoma. Now the county just south of Wilson, which is where most of this story takes place, is Love County. Love County is roughly 530 square miles, with a population of nearly 9,000 in 2013. So that means that there are just about 17 people per square mile in this county. For comparison, Oklahoma City has a population of around 682,000 people in just 620 miles. That means there are nearly 1,100 people occupying each mile of the city. So yes, we are talking about a truly rural part of the country. At what point does a fun-loving kid turn into a rebellious teen? When Molly Miller began her high school years, she played softball, laughed often, and had a great relationship with her family. She was working part-time, attending a local vocational high school, and had big dreams of pursuing her nursing degree after graduation. Records indicate that Molly was a full-blooded Chickasaw Native American. Yet by the time she reached her junior year, she had started hanging out with the wrong crowd. In some towns, the wrong crowd just means the poorer kids who like to smoke cigarettes beneath the bleachers. In Wilson, Oklahoma, home to a major methamphetamine scene, it meant stepping directly into the crosshairs of danger. Molly met Colt Haynes about a week before they disappeared, and the two became fast friends. Their relationship seemed to be platonic. Colt already had a girlfriend, but that didn't prevent Molly from having a crush on him. The people who knew Colt described him as a good man who nevertheless struggled with addiction. He was 21 and had a new baby, but that didn't prevent him from accepting an invitation to a party or a group hangout that he and Molly ultimately attended together. One of the party attendees was James, also known as Conn Nipp. At 21 years old, Conn was already bad news. He had a bad habit of taunting local police. Nobody knows why Molly and Colt got into Conn's car that evening, but they did leave the party together on July 7, 2013. The trio headed to a convenience store in the town of Wilson. Around 10 p.m., Conn left the convenience store and, with Molly and Colt in the car with him, began doing donuts in front of Wilson PD police cruisers, which was apparently a habit of his. When his donuts threw rocks or gravel at the police cars, a car chase began. The chase swiftly reached speeds of 120 miles per hour. Conn would occasionally turn off his headlights because he knew the road so well. He led the police south on Highway 76. Wilson PD was hot on Conn's heels until he crossed the border into Love County. Love County is the jurisdiction of the Love County Sheriff's Department, and the moment Conn's car crossed the line, dispatchers waved Wilson PD off the chase. Love County sheriffs took over the chase. But we believe they already knew who was driving and where he was headed. Meanwhile, Conn turned down a dirt path heading directly to his family's property. When Conn turned the car onto Long Hollow Road, a long dirt road, Love County Sheriff Joe Russell called off the chase entirely, saying he didn't want to tear up his cruisers. Further, he claimed to know where the car was going, making the first in a long line of odd comments and decisions he came to make about this case over the years. The decision to avoid pursuit may have had other motives besides avoiding wear and tear on cruisers, though. Sheriff Russell, you should know, was Conn's uncle. There were plenty of skeletons in Sheriff Russell's closet, too, many of which tie directly into this case. You're going to be shocked by the level of corruption sweeping through this little county on the Texas border. At this point, nobody's sure exactly what happened next. Conn showed up back at his house. Apparently, he either had no clue where the car ended up or just wasn't saying. 15 days later, on July 22nd, they found the car, the little 2012 Honda Accord, which didn't even belong to Conn, but to his girlfriend, had sustained $18,000 worth of damage after plowing through barbed wire, blasting through ditches, and ultimately running headlong into a tree. While the car was found, the two other occupants, Molly Miller and Colt Haynes, were never found. The property off Long Hollow Road offers about 1,000 acres of scrubland, trees, thick bamboo, and a wide, shallow pond almost big enough to be called a lake. In other words, it provided plenty of opportunities for getting lost. Colt and Molly definitely spent some time wandering through the area. They'd gotten disoriented and were alone. One of them would become badly hurt, and each would make calls for help. Molly tried 911 first. At 12:57 a.m., she made a 5-second call, said nothing, and hung up. Dispatch tried to call her back, but there was no answer. Nobody dispatched law enforcement officers to her location. It's not clear whether Molly was actively in danger at that point, or if she was just lost. Perhaps she started to make a call only to get spooked and hide, or perhaps she feared arrest. It's widely believed that both she and Colt may have been doing drugs that night, so law enforcement may not have been a welcomed rescuer. Frantically, Molly called several friends instead. She told them she was lost, stranded in a field, and that she needed a ride. She couldn't reach many others according to her phone records. At 6 a.m., she was still alive because she was arguing with a friend who wouldn't come get her because he had to drive to work. By 10 a.m., her call stopped. Her phone was completely dead, and nobody would find her. Colt's friends were a little more active. He told his friends that he and Molly had gotten lost between Long Hollow and Pike Road. At one point, he mentioned being at the base of a tree, which is perhaps where he landed after Conn crashed the Honda. There are some reports that he may have climbed the tree to get a better vantage point to determine where they were. It seems like he may have fallen out of the tree because, on a later call, he told them his ankle was broken, that he could see the bone sticking out, and that he was lying in a creek bed because he couldn't walk anymore. He told his friends he'd lost Molly too. She may have tried to go get help, knowing Colt was severely injured. This part is somewhat unclear. His friends took to their four-wheelers to try to scour the property for Colt. They stayed on the phone with him as long as they could. They fired gunshots to try to zero in on his location, though he never heard them. Allegedly, 3 of his friends showed up at Conn's house to find that Conn was already there. Conn apparently told them that he had no idea what happened to Colt and Molly, claiming they had taken off into the woods. To this day, Conn has always refused to say any more than those words. He has no idea what happened, and they took off into the woods. By 10 a.m. on July 8th, both Molly and Colt's phones were dead. Nobody saw or heard from them again after that. After learning their daughter was missing, Molly's family took the next logical step. They went to the Love County Sheriff's Department to report Molly missing. At first, Sheriff Russell tried to redirect them to the town of Wilson Police Department, stating that Molly and Colt were not his problem. When pressed, he offered different answers. Sheriff Russell told them they had nothing to worry about. He said she wasn't missing, that she was just out with friends, or that she'd just run away again as she'd already done once before. As for Colt, the sheriff said, he'd likely just taken off too. Perhaps he was trying to escape some of his legal troubles. Maybe he wanted to get out of paying child support. None of Colt's friends believed that excuse. Why would we? Later, allegedly, the sheriff made some reference to some other money problem Colt might have had. Though I could not substantiate it, there's a rumor that Colt may have stolen $5,000 worth of methamphetamine from the ring that Conn was involved with. If so, Conn had a motive, and so did everyone involved with the local meth ring. The sheriff also made strange choices in the case. For example, he allowed Conn to meet with family members in a deputy's office where evidence was left unsupervised. When the Honda was finally found, there was no physical evidence to indicate where the pair might be. To this day, Sheriff Russell insists that both he and God know where Molly is. If he knows, then why hasn't he revealed that knowledge to her grieving parents and other family? In 2014, a strange 911 call changed the case from a missing persons case to a probable double homicide. The dial seemed to be accidental, and it came from Colby Barrick, Conn's uncle. The operator heard him discussing a murder and mentioning Molly Miller and Colt Haynes by name. He said, "You know, you're beeping mad, you're beeping tired, beeping Moxley Lake. A buck knife, Molly Miller, they shot him in the mouth. Right there, I can put my finger all the way through it." The operator then heard water splashing and 2 gunshots. Colby Barrick lived on Long Hollow Road at the time of the chase. When the line cut off, she contacted Sheriff Russell, telling him she heard someone talking about Molly and Colt. And I mean, the girl that was killed and dope and stuff like that, they didn't realize they were on 911. And it comes from a pond just north of Long Hollow Road on Oswalt, she confirmed, noting that the phone pinged near Moxley Lake. In 2018, Barrick was arrested on unrelated firearm charges and sentenced to 46 months in prison, according to the United States Department of Justice. While incarcerated, he allegedly informed law enforcement that the bodies of Molly and Colt were in the pond. What would you expect to happen after such a call? Do you expect that dispatch would send law enforcement to Barrick's location immediately? Do you expect someone to have some hard questions for Colby Barrick? If you did, then I'm sorry to disappoint you because what happened was nothing at all. Nobody responded to the call, and from what I could find, nobody followed up on it. Of note is the following information. Molly is a native Chickasaw, so under the McGirt ruling, the FBI is required to pick up the case. In January of 2014, officers of the law finally arrested Conn and charged him with endangering the lives of the others with a high-speed chase. It was the only charge the district attorney could prove. Other arrests and recriminations flew, even as certain key players continued to follow the pattern of keeping their secrets close. Dark truths began to emerge. According to official investigations, Sheriff Joe Russell was heavily involved in the meth trade. The sheriff was using his home to manufacture meth. His son, Willie, was dealing it. His nephew, Con, was heavily involved in the trade as well. Russell even used Sheriff's Department resources to run drugs throughout Love County on a number of occasions. He let his son use his patrol pickup to both deal and sell drugs. Investigators found cocaine residue in the truck. He even allowed his son to keep a woman named Sarah Bamberg, a virtual prisoner, in their home. Sarah was wanted in Carter County for probation violations and in Love County for knowingly concealing stolen property. Willie used the warrants to coerce sexual favors from her, telling her she was safe if she stayed at their house, and gave him what he wanted. The moment she left, Russell had her arrested. Bamberg became a key witness in the investigation against Russell. Russell faced charges: 2 counts of corruption in office, 2 counts of habitual or willful neglect of duty, and 1 count of willful maladministration. He was also charged with maintaining a drug house and harboring a fugitive. An FBI agent even testified that on 2 occasions, the sheriff arrested bikini-clad women who were drunk or high and partying on the Red River. Instead of taking them to jail, he transported them to his home, where he blackmailed them into stripping and dancing for him. Russell didn't face as much justice as one might imagine he would. He was suspended with pay on August 1, 2016. He officially resigned on October 31, 2016, to avoid going to court over his job. He struck a plea deal in March of 2017, in which he pled no contest to the charge of willful omission to perform a duty. He was sentenced to just 1 year of unsupervised probation and fined just $300. Allegations continued to fly about Molly and Colt. For example, the rumor arose that Russell knew where possible murder weapons might be stored, a machete and a pistol, and that he'd opted to avoid going after those weapons for reasons of his own. Willie Russell, his son, eventually faced federal charges for methamphetamine distribution. The FBI arrested him after he sold an 8-ball, which is 2.8 grams of crystal meth, to an FBI informant at the Carter County corner store for $200. The FBI mentioned it took them a long time to arrange the deal because Willie kept wanting to stay in Love County, a place where his dad could protect him. The Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation has taken over the case. In addition, Molly's family has hired a private investigator named Philip Klein, and new allies have emerged from unexpected quarters. One of those allies is Toby Thomas, the owner of Battle Springs Ranch. Toby bought the property on Long Hollow Road, set up a tactical training facility called Battle Springs Ranch, and became interested in the case. When he first bought the property, he found footprints and 4-wheeler tracks going straight into the water. Toby has allowed everything from cadaver dogs to walking searches of his property and continues to search himself. Nobody's been able to find anything in Moxley Lake since he took over, but he uncovered rumors that the bodies might have been stuck into a freezer and pushed into the pond. The pond is wide yet shallow. Nevertheless, it is 4 to 6 feet deep all the way across, and if the bodies are concealed in an object like that, it would be difficult to find without a full, focused forensic dive. But Toby hasn't needed a dive to find at least a little bit of evidence in the case. While walking around the property, the new owners found a torn and tattered white woman's shirt tangled up in some tree branches. Not where you'd expect to find a shirt that came off by mistake, at body level, but at eye level. Molly was last seen wearing a white shirt. The shirt might have provided some answers, but it seems law enforcement misplaced the evidence nearly as quickly as they received it. Do these facts make you wonder who else is guarding secrets in Love County, and what it will take for someone to come forward with the truth at last? Maybe, someday soon, someone will. Molly's cousin Paula Fielding once revealed that she was speaking to an unnamed female suspect on Facebook. Could it have been Conn's ex-girlfriend? Or is it some as yet unnamed individual who was closer to the action than anyone in the public yet realizes? Either way, Paula claims this woman knows exactly what happens, that she could help close the case for good if she'd just come forward. I couldn't identify the woman of Paula's claims. However, in a very recent Facebook post on the Missing Colt Haynes page, someone named Monique Haynes Stewart, who I believe may be Colt's sister, posted a very strong and stern message to clarify who that group believes is behind Colt's disappearance. I absolutely wanted to include this detail, as I understand that with over 4,000 followers, there are more followers there, which is nearly 4 times the entire population of the town of Wilson. Let me be clear, based on direct specific evidence. I won't name a suspect solely on circumstantial evidence in the case of these 2 missing people presumed dead. If Ms. Stewart has direct, specific evidence and not just hearsay, only then can the information be considered usable. I also recognize that she is disappointed at the results of other social media outlets reporting of this story, along with the private investigator hired by Paula. I want to emphasize that this story was created to help bring closure to this case for the surviving family and friends of these 2 young people. Without a doubt, this is an odd, intriguing, and mysterious story. My regular audience often shows great insight and empathy for the people involved. With that, I asked, do you have insights into this case? Please let me know in the comments below. My name is Vince. I hope you enjoyed this strange story about the lives of these 2 young people. How odd circumstances, including a dangerous mix of drugs and corrupt law enforcement, leaves their family distraught to this day. If you enjoyed this story, you may also find the story of the Sumter County Does just as interesting. You will be able to jump right to that story by clicking the box in the upper right portion of your screen. Until next time, stay odd and mysterious. Thank you.